What is up, guys? It is me, Real American Politics, back in with a new video. And today we're going to be doing a deep dive, kind of documentary type of video on what is really going on with the suburbs and why the suburban shifts are not Trump's fault, alright? And before I even start this video, I have to concede one thing. Trump accelerated some trends in some suburbs by an election cycle or two. That's it. That's all I will say about Trump. He has some blame, quote, blame for the suburban shift. But realistically speaking, when you look at what's happening in a lot of these suburban counties, in a lot of these former safe Republican states, you're going to notice a single trend. These states are changing way too fast for the Republicans to keep up. And this is going to be a noticeable trend in the 4 states we're going to look at today. And we're just going to look at 2 counties from each state to give you guys illustration of what's really happening. Now, before we start this video, hope you enjoy this longer, more numbers-based video, because this is just a big video I wanted to do, debunk some people, because Trump isn't the reason these suburbs are shifting against the Democrats, or Republicans, I should say. They're not. So let's get right into it. So, let's look at Georgia from 2000. Gwinnett County. This is the first example. And Bush won it by around 31.5 percentage points. Pretty big margin. 2012, Romney still won it, but by only 9 percentage points. And in fact, reminder that the national environment swung 5 points in favor of Romney. It still swung against Romney. And you notice a lot of these suburbs trended heavy against Romney, even in a more Republican favorable environment than 2008. I mean, the state shifted, 2-3 points? When the rest of the nation shifted like 5 points Republican? That's a trend of like 2 or 3 points. And you notice this, that these suburbs already, in just, 12 years, made a 31 to 9 point drop for Republicans. What is that, 22 points in just 12 years? That's a pretty big, substantial swing just in 12 years. And you go to 2000, Gwinnett County, Trump lost it by around 18. So that was around a 27-point shift in roughly 8 years. So a little bit more. And again, Trump did accelerate these trends, but you do basic math, it's like, wait, that's a very similar trend from 2000 to 2012 as 2012 to 2020 was. Very similar, just 5 percentage points off. And you do some basic math and you realize if the Republicans ran, Bush type, McCain type, stuff like that, Romney 3.0, you would know, yeah, Republicans would still probably win Gwinnett County in 2016, but they still probably would have lost it in 2020. And probably the same margin it would be as it is now, like 5 years from now. So already these counties were shifting heavy against the Democrats. Or Republicans, excuse me. But why is that? Because people are saying that, it's because suburbanites don't like Orange Man. Okay, fine. There's some regular suburbanites that just do not like Trump. But it's not that's not the main reason, folks. That's just a bullshit reason. Not the main reason whatsoever. Let's look at Gwinnett County's demographics from 2000 to 2010 census. Look at the African American percent of the population in 2010. It was 23%. For 2000, it was 13%. So just in 10 years, the black population went up 13 whole percentage points. And the white alone vote went down by, 20 points? Just in 10 years. How are you expected to compete with that when it shrinks that fast? Just in 10 years. I mean, the black vote, 10 percentage points in 10 years for a census like this, that's pretty big. The Asian vote, same deal, went up 3 percentage points. Some other race alone went up 4 percentage points. Even Native Hawaiian went up by 0.02%. But the white alone vote only increased by 2,000. Black vote went up by, or I should say black people, went up 111,000 votes, or people. You notice that only 1,680 more white alone people grew in population from 2000 to 2010 in Gwinnett County. How do you even compete with that? That's what, like 0.0% of the population increase? You just can't compete with that. You look at this. Male population went down from majority to minority. You just cannot compete with that with the Republicans. Even back in 2000, Romney was doing awful with the black vote. Or not Romney, I should say. Romney was doing awful in 2012 with the black vote. So was Bush. So will every Republican ever. But Bush, he was in a county with 73% white. Romney was in a county that was like 53% white. In the census, well, 30% black this time around in 2020. White alone, 35.4%. I mean, that's such a massive increase. How do you compete with that if you're the Republican Party? And the female percentage, once again, went up by a whole percentage point. Just in 10 years. This is why Republicans are losing a lot of these suburbs. Not because Orange Man racist or anything like that. If the demographics were the same as it was in 2000, Trump would have absolutely wiped Biden out in the suburbs of Georgia. He wouldn't have won by as much as Bush did, but more than Romney. I mean, you can't just compare apples and oranges with 2000 to 2020. It's not because of Trump, it's because of demographic changes. And we could go to Douglas County. This is the ridiculous one. Back in 2000, Bush got 61% of the vote here. Won it by 25. Now, Democrats, they won it by 25. A 50-point shift just in 20 years. But you go to 2012, Obama won it by 4. Bush won it by 25. That's a 29-point shift just in 12 years. So this math indicates that between 2012 and 2020, the shift was less than it was in 2000 and 2012. You look at the swing. Same thing at Douglas. It swung significantly left. Trended significantly left. And why is that? Douglas County, once again, population. White alone people went down by almost 2,000 people from 2000 to 2010. Look at black or African American. They went from 18% of the population, almost 40, just in 10 years. And Douglas County, which one is it? I don't know, but you get the point. I don't even have to show you Douglas County's current census. It's going to show you the exact same thing. That these are not favorable counties to Republicans anymore. I mean, if the demographics were the exact same from 2000, Trump would have won this county significantly by like 10, 12 points. But these are not the same counties. These are Detroit people, right? Mostly black voters, moving to the Atlanta suburbs. That's just a fact. They're moving from Detroit down to Atlanta. These are not the same suburbs as they were 20 years ago, let alone 8 years ago. This is why I'm saying that even Romney would have struggled in the state of Georgia to even hold on to some of these suburban counties like Gwinnett or even freaking Cobb. Folks, this is just one state. Now, the second state for today is Loudoun County, Virginia. Loudoun, however you want to pronounce it. So Bush won this county by, once again, 15 percentage points. Noticing a trend here. Republicans used to win these counties by 15, 20, 30%. And you're going to see the demographics of this county to see why. But, okay, from 16 or 15%, the Republicans won it by. In 2012, they lost it by 4.5. So just in 12 years, roughly what is that, about 18, 19-point swing, just in 12 years. That's nothing compared to Georgia, but still, just in 12 years, almost a 20-point shift in a former Republican stronghold. And for 2020, Trump got annihilated here, lost by 25. But surprisingly, that's roughly in line with the trend we saw. So, what does that show? Well, it shows you that Loudoun County has changed significantly since 2000. And folks, this is the most ridiculous one so far. Look at the Asian vote. Went from 5% to 14%. The white alone vote, 83%, down to 68%. Black or African American alone went up by around a half percentage point. The other races went up by a total of like 4 or 5 points. While the white alone vote did have the biggest change, non-percentage wise, 74,000 people. Well, percentage wise, they did not have the biggest one. Asian Americans did. They flocked the Nova suburbs. And now, Asian alone votes 20% of Loudoun County. Up from 5% in 2000, up from 14% in 2010. Noticing this trend, that one single county can shift this much, not because Orange Man bad nonsense, but because of significant demographic changes in these counties. I mean, the Asian vote went up by almost 15 percentage points just in 20 years. A demographic that, sure, 30 years ago voted for Republicans by a slim margin. Now they don't. The white alone vote went down significantly. I mean, you just cannot compete with this if you're the Republicans, if you don't have somehow magical vote shares with the Asian or black vote. I mean, Romney or Bush even. Bush would have struggled in these counties even in 2000 if these were the demographics. You just cannot compete with them if your only vote group you're going to win is white alone is shrinking by 14 percentage points just in 10 years. You cannot compete with that. And again, this is just Virginia. This is just one county. What is the certain home state of George Bush is going to look like? And of course, that's the state of Texas. And there's one county we have to look at that demonstrates such a huge shift in Texas. Collin County. Bush won this county by 49 points. Well, yeah, 49 points. That is an absolute landslide for, a pretty big population center considering the population of the time. So, how does it go now? Collin County in 2017, or I should say 2012, roughly a 31% point win for Romney. While for Trump, he only won this county by 4.5. Now, does this point to Trump having more of a influence in the trends of these suburbs? Yes. There is more evidence to say, yes, some of these trends, right? Collin County in particular is one of those counties that Trump probably had 40 to 50% of the reason that the county shifted that much just in 20 years. But the other 50%, once again, demographics. 10 years, 81% of the vote is white alone, down to 71%. Asian alone went from almost 7% to 11%. Black alone, 4.7% up to 8.49%. How does it now? Well, Asian votes 16% of the vote, or I should say 16% of the population. Black or African American population, 11%. So just in 10 more years, Asian vote increased by 5 percentage points, black vote increased by 2 or 3 percentage points, and white alone, once again, decreased by massive amounts. Just in, 20 years? Or 10 years, I should say. So again, this is one of the only counties where, okay, fine, Trump had maybe more to do with the trends than demographic changes. But still, 50-50, I would say. 50% is because of mostly Trump, 50% because just pure demographic changes. I mean, Collin County changed that much in, 20 years? I mean, yeah, it was probably a bit inflated because of Bush being, from Texas, but still, it's a county that shifted that much just in 20 years. But again, it's 50-50 on who it's to blame. But for some of the shift, it's Trump's fault. For some of the shift, it's just the fact that the white vote continues to shrink in a lot of these former Republican strongholds. And again, that's just a flat-out fact. I mean, you look at the census data, and you can look at all these sources here. I mean, there's the census-owned data. And this is what's indicating that, hey, the white alone vote is continuously decreasing percentage-wise, while the Asian and Black African-American vote is increasing, percent of the population. So that's 3 states. And there's one more state that I want to look at because this one may be the strangest of them all. The last state is, of course, the great state of Colorado. We're actually going to be taking a look at 2 counties. One county that has shifted dramatically Democrat, while the other county that shifted significantly Republican, and see why one county went more Republican, while the other one got significantly more Democrat. And surprise, surprise, demographics. This is the number one issue you're going to see in every single one of these states. And I'll be working, excuse me, I'll be working on something to show you guys, there's a lot more going on with these demographic stuff, because if 2020 had 2,000 demographics, I have a feeling that a certain landslide would have happened, but that's just here or there. But the county I'm talking about is, of course, Arahope County. Bush won it by around 8. In 2012, Romney lost it by around 10. Trump lost it by around 25. So roughly speaking, 20-point shift in 12 years to around 25. So roughly like a 15-point shift just in 8 years. That's roughly in line with what we saw from 2000 to 2012, just slightly bit faster from the trend. And Arahope County, once again, got more Black and got a bit more Asian, while the white alone vote sunk dramatically, just like most of these other counties. But not as much as what happened in Georgia or Nova, but still a substantial amount. Yeah. And you look at what's happening now, once again, Black vote share up around 12%, Asian alone up to 6.5%, that's growing substantially. White alone continues to crater fast. But there's one other county that you may notice is on the screen right now. Weld County, Colorado. This is one county that shows you that this is not Trump's fault whatsoever. 90% of the suburb shifts are not Trump's fault. Now, is this a bit unfair to say that Weld is a more suburban county? Kind of isn't. There is a big chunk of Weld that you would consider that's kind of suburb of, more exurban part of Denver. But it still would be more exurban suburban county. Well, in 2020, or I should say 2000, Bush won it by around 18 percentage points. Romney won it by around 12. Trump won it by around 18 percentage points. So this is the one county that Trump basically gave the middle finger to with trends. It trended like 2 or 3 points left in 20 years. But from 2012 to 2020, Trump made substantial gains here. And why is that? Surprise, surprise. The white alone population vote share went up. One of the few counties we're going to show you today that actually went up and is somewhat still going up. So that is a good sign. This is one of the, well, not to say a good sign that Colorado's gone, but this is a sign telling you guys where these magical vote shares are increasing from. And again, there may be some influence to do with Broomfield. Absolutely. There is a very sliver part of Weld that got taken out. Sure. But not that much. I mean, the population I mean, the amount of voters went up by 100,000 just in 20 years. I mean, 2000 it was 64,000 votes. In 2020 is 166,000 votes. So yeah, don't give me this garbage that, oh well, it's Broomfield took a chunk of the vote. So it stayed basically the same. I mean, that's a tiny part that got taken. But anyways, this is the video. 20 minutes long, I know, but I had to get this video out here to show you guys what's really going on in these suburbs, why it isn't Trump's fault, and why it's more correlated with demographic changes. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit the little bell, and yes, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.